Hey everybody, Dan here with Michael Stone. John is off today. He's been visiting his family, and he won't be joining us. So I'm with Michael, and welcome to the Designer Show. And this is where we like to bring you information that will help you in your design business. But we also talk a lot about contracting too, because they kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah.
So Michael, welcome to the show.
Okay. Thank you for having us, Dan.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
Thank you much for joining us. And before I get started, I've got a bunch of questions I want to ask you. And those of you that are on the show here, this is not Michael doing a presentation. He doesn't have a slideshow, anything like that. This is kind of like I just wanted to interview Michael and talk, ask him questions about his life. And I thought maybe you guys would enjoy that because, I've known Michael since the mid 80s when I met him at a class that he did in the Twin Cities here, where it was life-changing because I finally learned how to run my construction business properly. I was a remodeling contractor till 1996. So it changed everything. It changed the way I thought about business, the way I did business. And Michael has had that influence on a lot of people in this industry. So I just thought people might want to just get to know a little bit about Michael personally. So before I get started, but I wanted to bring up a couple of things. Michael has created a ton of products, as you probably are well aware. So if you're on the video page on my website, below the live stream here, you'll see a couple of things. And here's what I want to recommend that you do. If you already have his books, awesome. Good for you. I hope you've been using them and learning a ton of information. I used to keep his Markup and Profit book with me all the time. I would read it at lunch. I would read it whenever I could. However, now, look at this. So Michael now has Audible. So he's got the audio book for the sales and the Markup and Profit. So what I would recommend you do is get out there and get the audio books to go with these so that you can now listen to the books between appointments on your way to jobs. Whenever you have that downtime and you're in your vehicle or walking or whatever it is, it's good stuff, man. You guys got to do it. And then there's links here to all the other products that Michael has. So by all means, he's got a lot of great information there. So I highly recommend that you get there. If you're not on my page here, just go to markupandprofit.com and you can get to all of his information. So, all right.
Let me comment here, Dan.
Yeah.
The audiobooks that you see, if you take when I sat in front of the camera and read those things, but with my time for prepping, reading, and then Devin coming along and editing it behind me, for every 1 hour that it takes you to read that book, we've got 7 hours of time invested in making and creating the audiobook. So there's a lot of work went into that, believe me.
Yeah, not accounting the tens of thousands of hours that you put into writing those books.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, that information is pretty amazing. So again, thank you for all that you've done for this industry.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Gotcha. So let's just talk a little bit about your life. So, we've talked in the past a lot, and you have some pretty cool hobbies. So you can tell me a little bit about your passion of your hobbies, and that's going to lead into a few other things that we got coming.
Yeah. Well, the one I really like is right behind me over here. Right there. Okay, that's my fly tying bench, and fly tying. You use your flies, you go out and go fishing. But here's the thing: when you reach my age, and I'm 78, okay, you can right there. That's my fly tying bench. What that does as you get older, and a lot of you guys are young enough, you haven't hit this yet, but as you get older, your hand-eye coordination starts to fade away. That fly tying, right there, the fly tying stuff, keeps your hand-eye coordination together so that, you're sitting there, you're tying flies and little tiny things. It makes a difference in your life. I mean, your coordination stays with you, and that's one of the reasons I do it.
Yeah. Well, not to mention that you also go out and use the flies that you tie and you catch lots of fish with them.
Yeah, we were up in Alaska last week and caught a bunch of salmon, and it was a good a good trip. Yeah. The other thing I do is I have a woodworking shop. It's we bought this place and there was a pole barn, so I converted the pole barn, which is 60 by 36. I converted it to a woodworking shop, and off one corner I've got a metalworking shop, and then one of the things I've got about every kind of woodworking machine you can think of. You can build virtually anything. But one of the things I really like to do is antique furniture repair, and I've done a
Yeah.
number of those, and it's really fun to take something old and has been somebody's mistreated it or it got dumped off the back of a pickup and just piece it all back together. And when it looks like you don't want it to look new, you want it to look like it's kind of a refurbished old thing, and and so both of those are woodworking also is very good for hand-eye coordination as you get older, and it brings a lot of joy to other people because you restore an old chair, and we've got several rocking chairs and drop leaf tables and all kinds of stuff in the house that I've reworked. So
Cool
yeah,
hobby.
yeah,
Cool. So Michael, where were you born? Were you born
oh
where you're at now, or where'd you get
well,
raised?
I was born west of here in a little town, not little anymore, but it's Vancouver, Washington, which is on the north side of the Columbia River from Portland, Oregon. And I was there for, I don't know, we were there until 1948. Then we moved back to North Dakota, where I went to grade school and high school. And then I did 3 years in the Army, and then came back to Fargo, North Dakota, and spent 2 years at North Dakota State University. And then came out here to the West Coast and continued my construction career. And eventually I ended up graduated from Eastern Oregon University with a 4-year degree. And it took me 32 years, 9 months, and 5 days to get my 4-year degree, but I stuck with it and got it.
Oh boy.
So it was an interesting experience.
That's amazing. So, and where you currently reside?
We're in a little town called Camas, Washington, which is northeast of the Portland, Oregon airport, about 24 miles, and it takes us about 26, 28 minutes to go from home to there home again.
You out in the country a little bit?
Yeah, we're out in the sticks, where these properties out here where we are all 5-acre parcels, and you really have to look to see your neighbor's house, and there's a main road that runs in front of our place, so we get a little road noise, but it's not bad. It's cool. I can go all week without wearing a mask, and I'm happy.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
It's the joy of being homebound. So what was the best part of growing up when did you always have this bug for construction or?
Well, my dad had one of the largest electrical contracting businesses in a 5-state area back there. And, he started one-man operation and it just grew it as he went. And so as I, got older, I started getting involved with him and about 1952 or 53, I started sweeping his shops on weekends, and then I go a little bit more. I started threading pipe for we had electrical contracting business, and back then you ran everything in conduit, and so they were always looking for different size nipples. Anywhere from 3 to 12-inch nipples in sizes 1/2 to 1.5-inch pipe. So I was busy every night. I get off school, and if I didn't have sports, I'd be home. Working in the shop and making fittings for the electrical guys and sweeping up and cleaning trucks and making sure they're gassed and serviced and stuff like that. So, I got started really young.
You did. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. And,
who was the most influential person in your life, to get you to where you're at now, or just what comes to mind for you?
There's no doubt in my mind that Devin, my wife, is the most influential person in my life. I mean, she has taught me so much. The lady understands business like very few people do. Extremely smart, easy to get along with for me. And we've been together. Well, we were married for 38 years, and
congratulations.
Yeah, and she's been extremely good for me, very supportive. I mean, I laugh and tell everybody, I make her be the best wife she can be. And I do that by being the best husband I can be.
There you go. Yeah.
So she doesn't have any choice. I mean, I don't give her any reason, or I try not to give her any reason to, get mad or fuss at me or anything like that. So and I have contractors when I'm doing coaching. Oh, I can't work with my wife. And I say, no. You can work with your wife. You choose not to.
Exactly.
There's a hell of a difference. Okay. Yeah. And it's rare that stop and think about this. If you you find somebody attractive enough to ask them to marry you and you get married to them. Now you're telling me you can't spend more time with them and work with them? Come on. You choose not to, that's one thing, but telling me you can't, not buying it.
Yeah, I hear
Yeah.
you. Good advice. That's great advice.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I've gotten to know Devin over the years too. She's a fabulous woman, and just when we were doing our business together, and just the way she ran the business and worked, it was phenomenal. So it was really cool. You're a lucky guy. So, and I'd have to say she's kind of a lucky woman too. So, goes both ways, yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
So,
I think the other guy, the other person that was probably most influential in my life was my the coach I had for baseball and basketball when I was in grade school and high school, and he was a big influence in my life, and not only myself, but a lot of other people felt the same way. He was an outstanding individual. I'll give you an example. When we were playing basketball, all right, and you're running around with your t-shirts and shorts and stuff like that, and he carried a towel with him. Like one of those small hand towels. It's probably about 24 inches. And every night before practice, he'd go wet it, just get it wet, bring it out on the practice floor. And if you didn't give him 100% effort, you got that wet towel right across the back of your legs. I kid you not. Yeah, they wouldn't allow him to do that today. But, this is, 60 some years ago that I played for him. And he said, you step foot on the floor for me, you give me 100% or your butt's going to be on the bench.
Nice.
Period. Yeah. And he kept to it. And, but, we had, 1 year we were 31-1 in basketball. Other years we were, 24-2, those kind of records. So, and many years in baseball, we were in the state tournaments every year. Wow. So, the final 2 or 3 or 4 teams in the state, we never won the state, but we were there every year. And it was because of his leadership, if you will.
So how many times did you get the towel across the butt?
Can't count them.
Okay.
Can't count them.
Got your attention. Yeah.
But he was always fair.
Cool. That makes sense. Yeah.
And I got to see him many times after I left grade school and high school. I went out in the real world, and he got where he was living in the North Dakota. He was living in Dickinson, North Dakota in the summertime, and then he'd go to Phoenix in the wintertime. And of course, in my travels as an instructor, I'd be doing classes in Phoenix or Tucson or someplace like that. I always made sure I had enough time to go see Buzz. And take him to dinner, and him and his wife and Harriet, and talk to him and see how they were doing, and it was,
that's, I think, cool.
One of the saddest, one of the saddest points of my life is just before I got back to see him one time, he had a stroke, and then I had to go try to talk to him and deal with him, and the stroke, I couldn't talk, and it was really depressing. But anyway, so.
What are
he's
you
gone
do?
on to the big ball game in the sky now, and I'm sure he's doing well. He always, but he influenced a lot of people.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, he had a lot of
in a good way. Yeah, that's cool. So tell me a little bit about your family. You have kids? They're all grown up.
Yeah, I've got 5 kids. My youngest is, I think, 24. My oldest is 52.
Okay.
And I got 3 of my daughters live here in the area we live in. I got another one that's married to a captain in the Army, and they're at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, which is Fayetteville. And my son lives down in Austin, Texas, and him and his wife and 3 kids are down there. So,
nice. We got grandkids.
8 of them.
8 of them.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I think one of the things we really like is on Christmas Eve, everybody comes over to our house. We have dinner. And then Grandpa sits down on a couch. All the kids get around me. The youngest one's closest. The older, further older they are, further out. And I get to read, the little book called, The Night Before Christmas.
Oh, nice.
And I record in there every year who was there, and we read the book to them each year, and then we open gifts and stuff like that. So
what a treat and what a neat tradition. That's amazing.
Yeah, we've been doing that for, I can't count the years, 18, 19 years now, something like that. And so the kids from, when they were just real small all the way to, they're adults now, and they still, they bring their kids over and do it, and so it's kind of a nice time.
That is cool. I can just picture that. It's so fun to get together with family at the holidays.
Boy. Yeah, Christmas is my favorite time of year, bar none.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember we were at the mall when you were here in town, and you were looking at all the Christmas decorations and stuff.
Oh
Yeah,
boy.
yeah, I can see.
Yeah, that Mall in the Americas is, boy, what a place to go.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool place.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
sure it is.
So how'd you, what kind of jobs did you have when you were younger? And how'd you get into the construction industry?
Well, I mentioned earlier that my dad had a contracting business.
Yeah.
And, at one time, just to give you an idea of the size of his business, he had 96 full-time, non-working superintendents working for him. That's how, I mean, he did a lot of government
Wow.
stuff. And so, and his rule in there, he had two rules. You will not touch a tool and you will not wear gloves. Now, this is in North Dakota.
Okay.
So, but yeah, he wouldn't allow his superintendents to touch a tool. He says,
Really?
if you pick up a tool, he says, find yourself another job.
I'll be
And
damned.
he very, very successful. I mean, he rewired. You're familiar with Rapid City, South Dakota,
Mhm. Yep. Yep.
North Dakota. They have Air Force bases there. They did at the time. And two of the jobs he had to completely rewire both of those bases. And that was back when the B-52s were stationed there, And so he went in and completely rewired the whole base. I mean, everything. And, I got to travel to both of those and help a little bit. I didn't spend a lot of time on it because I was still in high school when he did that.
Yeah. Cool.
But that's the kind of size of business he had.
Yeah. So you learned a bit there, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Cool. Let me interject for just a second. Hi, Edit. She says, it was a treat to meet you, Michael. So there's, to hear you, and thanks for being here, Edit. And I just wanted to mention to everybody that's on the live stream here, feel free to ask questions of Michael and make comments. And, we'd love to hear what you guys have to say.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me about the most interesting things that, that happened to you during your construction career.
I've had two things that stand out more than any other. Most people would probably say, "Oh, what?" Okay, but anyway, they were this. When I was in high school, I was a junior in high school. Between my junior and senior year, my dad took on a project up in Medora, North Dakota, for the Roosevelt National Park, and they wanted pins built for buffalo. Now, these pins were built with 10 to 12 inch telephone poles, and they were 20 foot long. We cut them in half, buried them 4 feet in the ground, 12 feet apart, and then put 4x12s as the runners on the pin. And there was one on the top, one 18 inches off the ground, and the other two were spaced evenly on there. And we were building these pins in Medora, and we were almost done. And the Park Service decided they were going to bring the buffalo in before we were done, which that wasn't part of the agreement. But, they said, well, all right, but just be careful. So, and we were out there one day, and we were running some heavy duty saws, cutting these poles in half and trimming up and doing whatever we needed to do. And the Park Service brought in a bunch of cows with calves, and they had them in 3 or 4 of the pens. And then somebody got the wise idea of bringing some bulls in there. They brought 4 bulls into these pens. Now, I don't know if you've been around buffalo much, but I can tell you the smallest bull in that pen was probably around 2,000 pounds, and the big one was probably pushing 3,000 pounds. And guys, they think, oh no, they don't get that big. Oh yeah, they do.
Wow.
I mean, they're like 7 feet high at the shoulder. The big ones are.
Wow.
Anyway, these saws got to going, and I noticed this one bull, and he just kept snorting and pawing. You see him do that and all that, and you read about it. They do that. And he's let out a couple of grumbles, and I said, hey guys, watch that character. And all of a sudden he got, I don't know what to put a burr under his saddle or whatever it was, but he took off running and went right through that fence.
Oh my God.
4x12s, broke 3 of them and went right through them and didn't even slow down. I mean, that is a lot of power. Anyway, that was one of the things that I always remember, watching that guy go through there, and I went right up the side of that. I mean, it's like I grew on top of the railing on one of the other pens, getting away from this guy.
Wow.
The other one I had is when I got out of the military, I was working on a road crew, driving a gravel truck, saving money to go to college. I was going to enroll at North Dakota State University that fall. And we were up by Carrington, North Dakota, which is north of Jamestown or Valley City, went up in there someplace. And I had read, I was a big Beatles fan back then. This was in 1963. And I thought the Beatles walked on water.
Sure.
Anyway, we were up there driving it, and I heard they were going to be coming through. They had flown into, I don't know, I think Denver or someplace like that, and they were driving up to Winnipeg. Now, why they did that, I don't know, because I was about as backwards approach you could ever think. Anyway, so I was driving a gravel truck, and on the back of the gravel truck, I took a wet rag and I said, "Hi, Beatles." Put it right on there. Okay, and it took off, and the guys are all laughing at me. You'll never see them, blah, blah, blah. Well, about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I seen this cavalcade of cars coming up behind me with lights on. Okay, and one of them went around me, and then the second one came up alongside me, and guess what? Down goes the window, and Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr stuck their faces out the window and waved at me like that.
Oh, cool.
And are you kidding me? Man, I was in the hog heaven. And I got back to the bunkhouse that night, and the guys were, a couple of them wouldn't believe me they did it, but fortunately one of my buddies was right behind me and he saw it happen. So he said, yes, he did. That's exactly. Cool. He says, I saw him stick the hand out the window. So those are the two things that probably, I know what some people wouldn't think nothing, but to me, both of those have stuck with me all the years. And
that's cool.
So, yeah, got
Good
to
story.
Got to see the Beatles. I'm very happy about that.
Yeah. That doesn't happen very often, that kind of stuff. So how did you get into this field that you're in? You've been doing construction now for how many years?
June 15th this year, I registered my 59th anniversary in construction.
Wow.
That's amazing. Yeah.
That's amazing. So what prompted you to get into construction, and then when did you start teaching? When did you start coaching people?
Through the progression of working on jobs and then going into sales and then going into management, I think I started teaching not a lot, but I started teaching classes for a local home builders association. I belonged to that as a remodelers council, and the other guys kept asking questions. So I said, I'll just teach a class on that. Fine. 1980, started teaching classes, and then word went out from there, and the other HBAs around the area started calling me and asking me to do classes. And then I knew a fellow, and some of your people may know, maybe if you remember him, Brian Patchen, who was the director of the National Remodelers Council at the Home Builders. No. He heard about me somehow, and he called me up and said, hey, would you do a class for us in Las Vegas at the National Convention? Well, smooth talker. Okay, so I go down to Las Vegas and do a class, and after that, the guys that attended the class, and we had, in that class that I taught that day, we must have had 300 people in that class. It just loaded the room full. Wow. And of course, after that, when you got that many people and they go back home and talk about it, and all of a sudden we started getting requests like crazy for, people to wanted us to teach classes and stuff. So that's kind of how
I do remember back in the mid 80s when I met you, or I didn't meet you, but I went to your class, and there was nothing out there. I mean, there was no education to be had. So, I mean, we're out here, a good carpenter turned business person, and I didn't know anything about business. It's just like, if you work hard, you'll do okay, right?
Well, yeah.
Not much.
No, and that's unfortunate is that, you work hard, but, that doesn't make you any money. You got to work smarter, and smarter meaning you got to run a business like a business. And that's the unfortunate thing. Too many people in this industry run their business as a hobbyist and not as a contractor.
Yeah. Let's just talk about this though. So you teach a lot of contractors. I mean, obviously that's who you teach. So that was a long time ago. How much have things changed since then? Technology has changed and tools have changed, and construction methods have changed. But the business of construction, has it changed at all?
Mm-mm.
No.
No, it doesn't change at all. It does the same things work today that worked 40 years ago. And I use a lot of principles my dad used when he was a business, and he started his business in 1948 and shut it down in 1972. And the principles he taught me are as in effect today as they were then. Yeah. In fact, you can take that a step further. Back in the early 70s, I used to take my grandfather fishing a lot, and he served his carpentry apprenticeship from 1907 to 1912, which is 108 years ago, is when he got done with his carpentry apprenticeship. Oh. And I used to take him fishing, and we would talk business a lot. And my grandfather was a very astute businessman. He did very well. And I got in the principles he taught me, back and he died in 1975. So you can see how far back I'm going here. I'm going 45 years ago.
Yeah.
The stuff he taught me 45 years ago is still relevant today, and he learned it 100 years ago.
Wow.
It doesn't change.
No.
The principles are the same.
That's amazing. So somewhere along the line, you decided to write a book. And actually, let me go back, a little different topic than that. So I know you talk a lot about your professional witness. So how long have you been doing that?
I started the expert witness stuff back in 1980. Okay.
So about that same time. Okay.
Yeah. And I worked got 1997. I got certified by the Better Business Bureau, and they have a week-long class that you got to go to.
Wow.
To get certification for arbitrations. And, what's interesting about that class is they fail probably half of the attorneys that go to their arbitration class, and they fail virtually all of the judges that go to that class because they all want to drag their courtroom baggage into the arbitration. And that's not what an arbitration is about. The arbitration is about, here's what you said, here's what we agreed to. Okay, now where did that fall off the tracks? Let me see the documentation, the paperwork, and then you as an arbitrator should be able to make a decision, and you don't bring any outside anything in. And that's where the judges and attorneys have trouble. They always want to drag this courtroom baggage they got. Well, the law says. No, it isn't the law says. It's what you agreed to. That's what the arbitration should be about. And, for our listeners here, if they run into a situation, I can throw out this also that, you should never have mediation in construction. Doesn't work. Mediation is fine for a marriage where you got, two people working to get something done.
Right.
But usually in a construction argument, one of the two parties doesn't want to solve the problem. And it's normally the customers of the contractor that don't want to solve the problem. What they're trying to do is figure out a way to screw the contractor out of his last 1, 2, or 3 payments.
Okay.
And I've been doing this now for 40 years, and it hasn't changed, and it won't change. Okay. And it's usually perpetrated because contractors don't write good contracts. So when it comes to me to do arbitration, I tell who's filing the complaint? Homeowner. Okay, you present your case. Contractor presents their case. Homeowner asks contractor questions. Contractor asks homeowner questions. I ask them both questions. I say, okay, fine, thank you very much, and I go make a decision.
Okay.
I rule for the contractor 6 out of 10 times. And the reason I do that is because the homeowners or building owners lie to me in the arbitration 6 out of 10 times. Okay.
Interesting. Yeah. But
they don't want to settle. They don't. They're trying to screw the contractors out of money. And, I think I've done arbitrations. I don't know how many states I've done arbitrations in, but it doesn't change.
I'll begin.
It doesn't change. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah. You hear a lot of horror stories, and the horror stories you hear about how they go to court and the judge always sides with the homeowners. It's like,
it's because they don't know anything about construction, and they start dragging their old baggage with them instead of dealing. That's one of the things they taught us in the arbitration training is that you are arbitrating a case. You're dealing with the facts that they agreed to. What's the agreement? Not anything else. It's got nothing to do with it. I don't care what color the contractor's truck is. It's got nothing to do with what was the agreement.
Right.
And so many attorneys and judges, especially, they get away from that. They start thinking, well, I had this rule. Let me give you an example. I had a case about a year ago. A contractor called me and he said, Michael, I'm in an arbitration. And he says, the arbitrator's against me, the other side's against me, and even my own attorney's against me. And they were all talking about, and the arbitrator had gone online and posted that contractors should only make 10% overhead and 10% profit. This guy's an arbitrator, for Christ's sake.
Oh my God.
Okay. And so I told the contractor, I said, give me their names. And I sent them a note. And I said, if you guys want to argue about this, fine. Okay, I'm going to bring my markup and profit book in there, and I can prove to you, it'll take me about 7 minutes to prove to you that this 10 and 10 thing doesn't work. Now, do you want to go through that, or do you want to read my book and start making good decisions here about these homeowners? It's obvious to me are trying to screw over this contractor here. Now, if you want to spend the time in a courtroom or in a hearing, I'll prove it to you.
Yeah.
Okay, and both of them backed off real quick because all of a sudden they realized that they didn't know what they were talking about. This 10 and 10 thing is just, that's probably, and which was,
Where did that myth come from? Yeah.
It was started between 1948 and 1952. The insurance companies had got busy and compiled all their policies into what they call an umbrella policy. And all of a sudden, when they had a loss, all of a sudden their costs went up like a rocket. And so they got their heads together and tried to figure out some way to get the contractors to work for less. So they come up with this arbitrary thing. Well, contractors should work for 10% overhead and 10% profit. It was BS then. It's BS now. It's no way. A contractor can't work for 10 and 10, period. No. Can't do it. Okay. Right. And so, and there's a friend of mine, a guy by the name of Martin King, and he lives back near Boston, wrote a paper, and it's a book. It's about, probably that thick. It's I think it's 170 some pages long. Okay. And he completely rips that whole thing apart, and he uses case and facts and everything, put it all together. And, he uses that back there to get rid of he was an expert witness on many insurance cases, and he won virtually all of his cases. Any degree of fairness and all, you realize that 10 and 10 doesn't work. No. And, but the worst part of that is after about 52, 53, 1954, then architects and started jumping on that bandwagon, because now they could show their homeowners where they're really saving them some money, because they can force the contractors to work for less money. And I don't care if the architects like it or not. That's what happened, and we can prove it. Okay. And so, over the years, this 10 and 10 thing is perpetrated and gone on down the road, and it doesn't work. Okay. And that's another one of the things that I talk about is this is why you should never get involved in a cost plus job, because it's little, if any, better than a 10 and 10 overhead and profit figure on a contract. So this is, this stuff all ties together just like this. I mean, it's not rocket science.
Yeah. It's not. It's math. I mean, what business is math, and when you look at the numbers, it doesn't work. So so you wrote a book, Markup and Profit. When did you write that first version, the first release?
Well, I was finishing up my 4-year degree at Eastern Oregon University in 92, 93, 94, right in there. Okay. I started it in 88 and I finished it up in 95. But anyway, about 92, 93, 94, somewhere in there, my advisor was also one of my instructors, and he had a PhD in construction management and some other things. And he said, Michael, write me a paper on construction management as it applies to small residential contractors. And he said, nobody's ever done that before. And so, all right, whatever. I wrote him a paper. It was about 130 pages long. Oh my. and the best part of it was he gave me 32 upper division credits. He gave me an A, 32 upper division credits towards my degree.
Wow.
On one paper. Okay.
Wow.
And he said, when you get done with this, he says, I want you to write a book and use this as an example. So I got done with my degree in 95, and somewhere in 96, I sat down and I took that paper and I expanded it, and we had a booklet out. It's about that thick. It was called Making the Numbers Work in Construction. Okay. Combaum book. We made it up and had the covers printed and all this other stuff. And about a year later, Craftsman Book Company, a guy by the name of Lawrence Jacobs, who was one of the managing editors down there, called me up and said, I got your book here. And he said, would you be willing to expand this book? He said that the markup is the single biggest, the questions on markup is the single biggest question we have. People wanting information on it. We don't have anything. Yeah. So I said, sure, let's talk about it. And so over a period of a little bit of time, we come up with a guideline of what we wanted to do. And we took the book, and I got busy and started working on it. And so we wrote it, and it took about a year to get it edited and cleaned up and ready to go. And so we came out with that. I think it came out in January 99. The first book, Markup and Profit, A Contractor's Guide, came out. And of course, we rewrote it in 2012. That's the one when the Revisited came out.
Yeah, that's this one.
Yeah, that's the latest one. Yeah, there.
Here's the date. Yeah, you signed it for me on 4/27. I got one of the early ones.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, but it was brand new, right off the press. Yeah. So we and work on it, and I don't know. We've got I don't know, Devin and I differ on our numbers on this thing, but based on what I've seen, we're something over 80,000 of those books have been sold now. So it's and what's interesting is that, and I read this a couple of different places, that most book publishers will get back anywhere from as 2% to as high as 8% of a book that's published. They'll send it out.
Okay.
Shelves, whatever. Somewhere between 2 and 8% of it, when people buy them, they return the books. They don't like them or bring it back, whatever.
Yeah.
And sitting right here at this desk, I cannot think of a single case of where the Markup and Profit book has been returned. Now,
Nice.
I see them on Amazon for sale. Guys read it and then they sell them. Well, whatever. That's their choice, whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
But we never get one back in our office here. People read it and that they realize that,
Yeah.
And it's not me. It's the information that was gathered and put together, and it works.
It works, man.
Yeah.
It works. I'm a firm believer. I do tell just about everybody I know about this book, and I tell them, this is the Bible of how to run your construction company. And if you don't have that on your desk, reading it regularly, reviewing it, and now you can listen to the Audible, the recording to go with it. Yeah, it's the cheapest degree you can get.
I've added over the years. It's always been interesting for me, and it's nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
But you hear guys that get on the forums and start ranting and raving, that book isn't for me, blah, 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 blah. But you hang on, 2, 3, 4 months later, you call them, and almost always their phone's been disconnected.
Yeah, I read your last post you had about the guy that his wife didn't, he disagreed with his wife about the book or something, and then he picks it up and reads it, but you didn't finalize what happened, but I'm assuming he probably started doing better.
I'm hoping. Yeah. You do. Yeah.
So what other things have you created since then, since the Markup and Profit book? And let me bring up a screen and I'll show people. So
we wrote the profitable sales book. And that came out in 2000. That's the one on the right there, the green one. That came out in 2007. I think that came out. Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. That sounds familiar.
All right. And then
you didn't date mine that you signed this time.
Oh, sorry. But the rest of them you see up there on the estimating software program, the estimating software program, I wrote that back in 1989 and 90, and we brought that out. So it's the oldest, if not the oldest, in the top 1, 2, or 3 oldest estimating software programs on the market today.
Okay.
A lot, and there's over 700 estimating programs on the marketplace today, and frankly, most of them are junk.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But ours has been around now 30 years, and so we know it's working. Fast Track Proposal Writer is another one, the one there with the blue with the red lettering on it. That's another one where if you do the estimate, that program steps in, grabs the estimate, converts it into language that the homeowner can understand, and you write contracts with it. There's more language in there than any other program on the marketplace as far as writing contracts, and that works.
Got a bunch in there. Yeah.
You've
updated that. You updated that here recently too, didn't you?
Yeah, I constantly work on bringing new language in there. There's the defame and disparagement clause has been added, and there's a bunch of other stuff that's been going in there. The other stuff that you see on there, some of it, Tom Hopkins is recently retired. He retired in August last year. And he wrote the book, How to Master the Art of Selling, and that's a marvelous book. Okay.
I think I wore out a couple of his cassette programs back in the day because I would listen to him.
Yeah, he does a great job. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
He does a great job. We got a markup calculator, and Deb wrote that program.
That's really cool, too.
Yeah, Deb writes all of our programs. We got tired of looking for we tried 2 or 3 different people to write our programs, and they just could not get their arms around stuff and get it finished on time. So Deb said, "The heck with it, I'll do it." And she sat down, taught herself to program, and wrote the programs, and they work.
It's a slick little app that works really well.
That's a marvelous program. It takes all the guesswork out of calculating markup.
Yep.
Okay. And so, the other stuff there, the subcontractor manual, the employee manuals, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They're written by people that are really good at what they do, and it takes the guesswork out of it. And it doesn't behoove a contractor to spend their time writing from scratch an employee manual or a subcontractor's manual. We got one. All you got to do is edit it, put your name in it, and then away you go.
Yeah. And I remember this program that we did this back in my construction biz days, and you redid it. I know.
Yeah, that's another one. That one right there is another one that's just helped. We got contractors out there that consistently get their air factor under 1% after they've used that program, and and that's awful good estimating. So that takes a lot of work to get through. It takes probably somewhere between 40 and 50 hours to get through that class. But if you put the time and effort in, you get out of the other end, you start making darn good money on your jobs.
It's like everything. You get all what you put into it. So, but that's cool. Yeah, no, you've done an amazing job with all of the different programs and products that you've created. And I know you still do a lot of training. You do a lot of training classes. So, you still teach your classes today online these days.
Yep.
So what kind of topics do you cover?
Well, I stick to, and this is one of the things Devin taught me, is that you can't be all things to all people. And unfortunately, we've got a whole bunch of coaches and consultants out there in the construction world now that try to be all things to all people, and that doesn't work.
No, it doesn't.
So we stick to construction business management, estimating, and sales. That's it. Okay. And if it gets away from that, I can comment on it. But, if you start, how do you handle this, with human resources problems or stuff like that? No, that's not me. Mm-mm.
Yeah, I've sat through your classes a few times here in the last number of years. And every time I go, I don't even do contracting. I just love going to them just to be reminded of all the challenges that contractors face.
It's the second toughest business there is to survive in. Okay.
What's the first one?
First one is developing software, small software development companies, and they overtook, as far as the reason I say it's the second toughest is that contractors have the second highest failure rate of all businesses out there today. And that's been, they were first for way back when. And then in June of 2016, software development company failures exceeded the failure rate of contractors. So they're the first. So,
of course, I think restaurants might take over here in the current climate.
Well, So we're at both those businesses in software development and construction. So this stuff works. Yeah, we know it does. Okay.
So what kind of changes have you seen in the construction industry over the years? Well, I see a lot more professional contractors out there that are running successful businesses and have great employees, and they're just doing a wonderful job. What do you attribute, to that?
Well, the two main things that I've seen that have helped contractors immensely. Number one was the advent of, or the growth of the computer in the industry. You got better data management. You got you can, as you do, the drawings and blueprints and stuff like that. You don't have blueprints anymore. I don't know. That phase is going away. Sales presentations. There's all kinds of, the computer touches virtually every aspect of construction management. Computers touches every area. And if you get busy and learn how to use it, use computers, it will really, really help your business and help you to continue to grow and do good things.
I couldn't imagine running a construction company of any size without a computer.
We used to do it. Yeah.
Didn't we though? I remember the old journal ledgers we have to use and the old one-write check systems. And I remember all that stuff.
And the bigger companies had punch cards.
Oh yeah.
Used and went through and the bigger companies had, all kinds of ways to manipulate and use data.
Wow.
The other one is the mobile phone has come on, and I was thinking this morning. I remember one of the companies I worked for bought 8 of their salespeople mobile phones, and then the transmitter, the box of power equipment, everything was mounted right in the car under the dash.
Yep.
And you had a phone that you carried with you, and you carried on from there. Of course, now you just got little handheld gadget, and away you go.
Supercomputer in your pocket. Yeah.
But the phone has greatly improved communication in this business, and of course, and I don't look for the negative in things, but the one thing I caution contractors is don't let your people abuse the use of a phone on a job, because they waste so much time, talking and BSing on the telephone.
Hang on, I got to get a text here. Hold on, I'll be right back.
and see that waste. My best guess is that in construction, that the mobile phones waste somewhere between 10 and 30% of every business day out there.
Wow.
And so you're paying, you're for every dollar you're paying out in wages, you're wasting 10 to 30% of that dollar you're paying out on somebody's BS and horsing around with the damn phone. Or, they also have texting devices. They have gaming devices. I've seen them all right on the job sites.
Yeah.
Why? Yeah. Why do you put up with that? I have no idea.
I think you have a thing in your book about, if you take that 15 minutes a day that they waste and you add it all up throughout the course of a year, and what is that worth? Thousands of dollars.
Thousands. Yeah, it amounts to thousands of dollars. And you say, oh, you can't stop the guys using it. Yeah, you can. Real easy. You just tell them you got one warning, and this is it. If I catch a mobile phone in your hand during working hours, you better have another job lined up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you're running the guys say, well, you can't get good people today, and that's nonsense also. Okay. You can get good people if you pay them top dollar in your area for the job that they're doing.
Yeah.
You'll have a laundry list as long as you want of people that want to work for you. These employees are not dumb. They're not going to work for somebody at $18 an hour when you're paying $22 an hour for the same job. They're not stupid. They're going to come to you and say, hey, would you put me on your list? When you need somebody, I'll be glad to come to work for you.
Yeah.
And contractors can't get their arms around that concept. That would solve the labor problem we have in this industry real quick.
So, all right, I got a couple more questions here. We got 13 more minutes. So if you could snap your fingers and make, make one thing that would magically change for contractors to do better, what would that be?
Tell contractors to put their ego in their pocket.
Ego in their pocket. What do you mean by that?
Well, there's too many contractors think that they know how to drive a nail. They know how to run screws. They know how to hang this, how to install that. They think that makes them a good contractor, and it doesn't. And they won't go and ask for help from other people.
Okay.
And this is, and the guys just have this idea that I'm not going to ask for help. People think I'm dumb. No, it doesn't. What makes you look dumb is when you don't ask questions, when you don't know how to do something. Okay. And that's, and like I say, if contractors, that's my number 4 cardinal rule. Thou shalt put thy ego in thy pocket. Okay.
That is one of your rules. I remember that. Yeah. And that goes for all facets of your business too.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Just hey, I know it all. Don't question me. I've worked with guys like that. Oh my God. So what's the biggest mistake you still see contractors making? I already asked that one.
No.
No, that's changes. What's a mistake that you see most contractors make?
They won't take the time to sit down and accurately calculate the markup they should be using to arrive at the correct sales price for their work. And then when they do calculate them, I can't be right. I can't charge that much. And they all got this stuff in their head about, I can't this, I can't that. How do you know what you can do until you try? And I had a contractor coaching client yesterday. He says, Michael, I had a hard time believing what you were talking about. And he said, I tried it. Oh my God, it worked. And he said, now I stop and think about all the money that I left lay on the table because I wouldn't do a simple approach like calculating my markup and using it.
Yeah. This little piece of software could save someone's business.
Right there. Yeah. And once you set your markup, you do not drop it for any reason. I don't care who they are. Everybody says, well, this is my neighbor. This is my friend. This is my family. Hey,
that's when you raise your markups on those jobs so you can take better care of those people.
I got one rule that I love. Want a friend? Go buy a dog. This is business. Okay.
I like that one.
Yeah. Once you set your markup, you don't change it for anybody. I don't care if it's a commercial guy. I don't care if it's somebody telling you, well, I've got 15 more jobs to do. Fine. When you come to those 15 jobs, we'll calculate each one of them separately. But on this job, that's my price.
So I got a few more questions, but there's a couple comments here. Jeff is just saying he started out 40 years ago and he'd go to court to do all of his final payments. And sounds like after a while that he figured that didn't work anymore because he probably lost every one of them. So then he just decided to sit down and work it out. So that's just exactly what you're talking about with your arbitration. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you hear those stories so much.
A good, well-written contract will eliminate, and when I say this, it eliminates most of those problems, because the people that have in mind to screw you out of your money, and they know it before they ever call you the first time, they know they're going to try to screw you out of your money. If you have a well-written contract, they will figure out some way to keep from getting involved with you in the construction contract. They will eliminate themselves, and that's what you want.
Yeah, nice. Diane Gilson says hi.
Hi, Diane.
How are you? Legend. You're a legend. Well-deserved title. Yep, and that you are. Randall says, great advice. I think that's when you're talking about the Eagle thing, when he posted that. So what's your opinion of the current labor issue? I mean, you hear that all the time, that people can't find good people.
Well, it's what I mentioned just a few minutes ago. If contractors would charge enough for the work they do, that they could pay their people top dollar for the job that individual is doing for them in their area, the labor shortage goes away. These employees are not stupid. They're going to go to the company that's paying the most for that particular job. They will. Yeah. They're not dumb. You and I would do that if we were back working with the tools. Okay, I'm not going to work for somebody for $15 an hour when I got somebody right down the street willing to pay $18. Okay, and you'll have a laundry list as long as your arm of people that want to work for you. Problem solved. If everybody else is having trouble with employees, that's their problem.
Yeah.
Okay. And guys say, well, I can't charge that. No, wait a minute. Stop and think about this. In every town that where we have people here in this webinar, in their town, every one of those towns has one contractor that is notoriously high priced. Have you ever noticed those guys are busier than anybody else? Yeah. So don't give me this crap you can't charge it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just a mindset. It's all it
is. That's exactly right.
It's just like someone heard something. It's like, oh, really? That must be the truth. It's like, oh, no. You set your own mindset and you educate yourself and you do it. All the stuff that you promoted for years and years. Yeah. We got a question from Bill Murray. Served as the chair of NARI's NHAB Financial Management Work Group in 2002 to 6. They produced a cost of doing business study. Have you used this document in your research at all? Are you familiar with that?
I don't believe I have.
Okay.
I don't believe I have. I try to do as much research on when I'm on a particular subject. I try to do as much research as I can, but there's a limit to how much you can do. I try to deal with things from a common sense standpoint.
Yeah, that you do. And I'm sure most of that information is great. In fact, Bill, if you wouldn't mind sending the link to that to me or Michael, or if you can post it here, I'll let everybody look at it, and it'd be fun to see what that is. So I'd love to look at that information too. So Michael, we have a few minutes left. What's your proudest, besides your wife, what's your proudest achievement in your career?
If you take all the products and stuff we've created, but I think the thing that I can do, and I can look in the mirror, I can talk to anybody and look them straight in the eye and say that we built our business helping contractors take care of their families. And I think that I don't have any apologies for that approach. And we have helped literally thousands of contractors over the years.
I know you have. You've probably tens of thousands, Michael, because you've got a lot of people you help that you probably aren't even aware of.
Well, we know that I've taught estimating classes in 44 states to over 30,000 contractors, so that'll give you some idea. Yeah. So we've reached a lot of people, and I think that gives me the most satisfaction. Not because my ego's so big, I got to get in front of people and talk, and everybody thinks, "Oh man, you really know what you're doing." That's not it at all. What it does is when I know that when they go home at night, they can pay their bills, they can buy their husband or wife clothing or insurance or food or whatever. They can send their kids to the good schools. That's to me is now I know, because their business is doing well enough they can afford to do those things. Now I know we're right on target. That's where we want to be.
That's nice. Well, I'm going to add to that in that, You've been doing this a long time.
Mhm.
That's really something to be proud of. I mean, you've stuck with it and you've
Mhm.
stayed on message and you've really, you've laser focused on what needs to get done for contractors out there. I don't know a lot of people doing that. I mean, I don't know. I don't think they teach contracting in colleges these days.
No.
Not real world contracting.
Well, what I've seen is that most of your colleges, your major universities, minor schools, associate schools, they teach construction business management, but they always focus on large commercial companies and what those companies want taught. They don't teach residential, okay, or light commercial. They don't. That's never taught. Okay, and that's unfortunate because that's where probably 80% of the construction dollars out there right now are spent on residential and light commercial construction, not these great big high-rise buildings and all this other monkey motion. That's not
Yeah.
where the money is spent.
Yeah. Well, not for your average person anyway. I mean, you see a lot of big projects going on all over the place, but those are big contractors. That's not what we're talking about. That's
Yeah.
a whole different animal. So what, what would you, those that are watching this live or watching it afterwards, what would you like them to take away from this talk that we've had?
Okay, first thing is get your markup right. All right, and sit down and do your numbers and don't cut corners. Do it right and don't get the idea in your head you're too high, too low. Forget that. Do your numbers right. You know your numbers right, okay? Use that markup on every quote. Not some of them, not most of them, all of them. This is markup. That's my price. Take it or leave it. That's the attitude you got to have, okay?
Yeah.
Pay your people a good wage or salary. Make it the top in town so that you control, if you will, the labor market in your area. And most importantly for contractors, eliminate the word "yeah, but."
What do you mean?
Yeah, but.
Give me an example.
You say something to a contractor and it's, yeah, but, blah, 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 blah.
Oh, okay. So,
if you ask somebody a question, listen, okay, and don't come back with the yeah, but. I'm going to be real crude here, but I'm going to tell you what a yeah, but is. It's a mating call. It's a mating call of an asshole. Okay, that's the way I look at it. So if you want, Devin and I are willing to help anybody, and we do.
Yeah.
But I tell my coaching clients before they ever sign on, one thing that we are not going to listen to is yeah, but. If you want a yeah, but, then don't sign on for coaching because I won't listen to it. I'll hang up on them.
Yeah.
And I will.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I can't charge that much here in my neighborhood.
I heard that. What is today? Today's Friday. I heard that Wednesday morning on a coaching call. We can't do that.
Yeah.
How do you know? You haven't tried.
Exactly.
Oh, it's exasperating. And his wife's on the phone with him. And I mean, this poor lady, she has wings. She has a halo around here. She's got wings and she's putting up with this jerk.
I tell you, I think this industry does drive some people to be not nice people, or maybe they just started out that way.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
never assume you can't do something, especially when it comes to selling.
Yeah.
You just go out, do a good, show up on time, return your phone calls, make a good presentation, get commitments from your customer before you start doing any estimating or drawing plans or anything else. Get a commitment, get a design agreement, get paid for what you do.
Yeah.
And if you do that, you're going to close 90 to 95% of the design agreements you sign. You should be able to close into in a construction contract.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dan, you've been there.
I've been there. Yep. Study, learn. Michael, you got great tools for people to use. You guys get to markupandprofit.com and get the tools that you need to run your business or get them from somewhere. I mean, just do it. Michael, you're available for coaching. All the information's on your website. So
can I, we got time for one more comment?
Yep, go ahead.
You mentioned coaching. One thing I've noticed, and this has come up over the last couple of years, is that the number of people that are trying to do coaching and consulting now, and guys, ladies, you got to be careful who you contact. I mean, we've got people calling themselves business coaches that are barely 30 years of age. I've got 59 years in this damn business, and I don't know anywhere near what I would like to know. I figure I know about 10% of the construction industry well enough to sit in a courtroom and talk as an expert witness. 10%. Okay. And I've been at this 59 years. Now, how is somebody in the age 30, 35 going to be a business coach?
Well, you
You
Google
tell
it,
me.
right?
I just, it blows my mind. You got guys trying to be all things to all people. You can't do that.
Yeah.
Okay. And so when you pick a business coach or a consultant, do your research and make sure you get somebody that has been there, done that, okay, and can help you.
Cool.
Please do that. Otherwise, you're wasting your time and money.
Yeah. Michael, thanks again for being here. I really appreciate it. Thanks for all that you do for the industry and for everybody.
Yeah.
And we'll see you on the next cruise, maybe, huh?
Oh, let's hope.
All right. See you, buddy.